regarding AI, this is the main thing, art-wise. As I said just before we started recording, is like my advice to all artists from my perspective is that you really lock down your philosophy of what art is, what it means to you, and how to interact with it. Because I know a number of people who are self-destructing over what is happening for them right now. Like they're having a very strong emotional reaction to this, and I'm trying to see what they're like. I don't feel that way, but I'm trying to understand why they're feeling it, and I'm listening to their arguments and trying to see where they're coming from.
I mean, the AIs are being trained on massive databases of art that have been scraped off the web without the creator's permission.
No one being asked and all this kind of stuff.
So that's one of the things that people are specifically objecting to, with good reason.
We can get into the details of that, but I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, hey, let's get this under control. I feel like my shit's being stolen. From my point of view, I've been a professional artist for 25 plus years, 30 years. And I have seen my own art be repurposed in popular media many, many times. And even in that case, my response is like, well, I could spend, an enormous amount of effort trying to justify my rights here. Or I could let it go and just make other shit. And making other shit is always a better use of my time, because there's an infinite well of other stuff that I can make and be happy about. And so someone is a dick, and that's the way it goes.
And that's actually a really relevant point, right? Because essentially what's happening is that a lot of people are saying, how can we fight this AI?
Right.
And ultimately what you're going to have to do is figure out where you can go. If you perceive that the AI has sealed off some of your possibilities for your career or whatever, is finding other ways to go be creative and to make art for the experience of making art. In my opinion, that's where all of this is heading, is that you're going to have to do what you do in your life for the experience of doing it, because if it's about the end product, the AI is going to be able to make it better.
And so when I see people reacting very, 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 very angrily, sort of passionately angrily, I ask myself, okay, so first of all, the points you have about theft are perfectly valid, right? This is an absolute concern. I totally get it. So first we look at that and we say, how does the AI work? Well, the AI doesn't copy, steal things directly and then put it up as something else. It's analyzing all sorts of light and form and word associations. And because it's not thinking about it, it's just sort of trying to come up with an algorithm that replicates a similar, output. Sometimes it totally spits out something that's identical to another piece of artwork. That's because the AI isn't awake, and it's just, as far as it's known, it's here's a number hose and I'm just spraying it at your screen and whatever. That said, you're the person who pressed the button, and you're the person who decides if that's what you want. You are the one who put in the prompt. That prompt is all your thoughts. It returns a bunch of images, and you pick the one that you think is the best. And then you go, but I'd really like this to be more, I don't know, like this. And then you give it a bunch of images to work with and reference, and it sculpts it like this. And it's like, and you just keep tuning it back and forth or whatever it is. Regardless, sometimes you hit the button and it comes up with something magical. You just go, that's it, right? That means that you are the last stop. And that means that you're the artist. No one is there to tell me whether I'm right or wrong. I'm the one who is deciding whether or not this is a casting of my emotional state the way I want it to be. I'm the one who decides. That is what makes AI art a tool. Now, you can take the output from that tool and use it any goddamn way you want, right? You don't have to accept what it turns out and just hand it over. It's like, well, that's what the computer made, so I guess that's it. You can take that and put it into Photoshop and lay over your own photography and draw on top of it and whatever the hell you want it to be. And then you put it out and it's art. Andy Warhol took a photograph of somebody else's photograph of Marilyn Monroe and colored it pink and put it through a silk screen and silk screened it. That's art.
It's great that you brought up Andy Warhol, because this is where the rubber meets the road is where you start getting into some gradations, right? Because some derivative art is more exploitative than others, right? 100%. And so when we're talking about AI art, it's like, well, did you use the AI that was trained on 1,000 images from your favorite manga artist to create a copy of them? Or was it trained on 1,000 of your own images to create some new variations of your own style? Or was it trained on this massive common database scraped from all these are all kind of different scenarios that deserve to be talked about and probably have some rules drawn around them.
Totally.
But yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, yes, you are at the very least an art director when you push that button. And if by the time you've pushed it a few times, you can say that you've been through an artistic process.
Right. Because that's the thing, is like, if the machine spits out, like, if the problem that people have is that this thing creates duplicates of actual extant artwork, like, I can solve that right now. If that thing spits out something that looks like the Mona Lisa, I go, well, that's just the Mona Lisa. I'm not going to use that. Right? Like, I'm the one who says I'm the artist. I'm just like, that's just a copy of another thing. And if I don't know it's a copy of another thing, that's even simpler to solve, because there's a thing called Google reverse image search.
Exactly.
Right. So you can do this yourself, even without using AI art. You can just, like, I drew this thing, I'm just going to check to see if I'm ripping off anybody because I'm heavily influenced by so-and-so. So it seems very, very simple to add a line of code that says, please look at the images you are referencing to see if any of these ended up the same. Right. And either don't offer them up, or at least offer them up to me to say, do I want to continue to do that? Is that the output you want? Like, so there's nothing to be mad about. Like, there's something to fix. It's not like AI invented ripping people off. Like, it is your responsibility as an artist to not fucking rip people off.
And quick tip, if you try to sell that art, you're probably going to sign a contract that contains an indemnity clause that says that it's you, not the publisher, that's liable if somebody comes and says you copied my image.
Right. So like AI is not, like, the machine is not stealing anything. You are stealing something. If you go like, yeah, it looks like Hellboy, all right, I'm going to make some money on it. Like, that's you.